Tianling continent. Northern ice region. Huang Yuli's entire body was drenched in scarlet blood, not a single ounce of strength left within her. No trace of emotion could be seen on that peerless beauty's face. It was only that pair of chillingly cold eyes that revealed her killing intent. 10-directional nightfall formation. At such a large scale. This Sky Phoenix Jade Ring is merely an incomplete godly armament. I'm afraid that you have wasted your efforts. The white-clothed male coldly sneered. Don't believe for a moment that I don't know the reason for your visit to the northern ice region. It's all for the sake of finding the profound ice jade to repair the ancient godly armament, right? Both Huang Yuli's heart and mind shook. There was only one person who knew of her trip to the northern ice region. That person was the Ling sect's eldest young lady, Ling Qingyu. Could it have been her who had betrayed her? But these two ladies had known each other for many years and had gone through many life and death situations, close bosom friends with many shared secrets between them. So how could it be? Her eyes quickly scanned through the figures of the surrounding people, the corners of her mouth rising. The demonic sect, Cloud Sea Ancestor and Qi Xing Palace, of the Seven Powers, 3 of these great masters have actually gathered here. The allure of the Sky Phoenix Ring is truly great. Unfortunately, even if I did hand the Sky Phoenix Ring to you, there is only one ring. May I ask how you 3 will divide it? The expression of the white-clothed male faltered and became unnaturally stiff. Hurriedly he went to cut her off. Don't try to stall for any longer. Before the might of the 10-directional nightfall formation, all will become flames and ashes. All except the godly armament. Now hand the armament over. In respect of your master being the #1 armament refiner, I will spare your life if you pledge your loyalty to me. Huang Yuli sarcastically laughed. Pledge my loyalty. In your dreams. Huang Yuli's life never has relied on others to live. Just as those dominating words fell, the world lit up in a raging tower of flames. In a blink of an eye, the color of the land completely transformed. When the white-clothed male witnessed this, his complexion became unusually grave. Urgently he cried out, "Not good. She wants to self-destruct. Not good. Quickly, stop her." Chaotically numerous people attempted to stop her. Unfortunately, by the time they had reacted, it was already too late. As an Emperor Profound Realm Master, the detonation range of Huang Yuli's was enough to wipe out a city. As for those within her immediate surrounding, they naturally would not be able to escape the blast and would be turned to ashes. It was also precisely at that moment was the icy land plunged into darkness, accompanied with terrifyingly violent tremors that shook the entire land. About 30 meters away, a black-clothed male stood in the air. His body was slim and graceful, with devastatingly exquisite looks that looked to be as perfect as a sculpture. Yet those desolately cold eyes disdainfully looked towards the commotion as he dispelled the incoming and powerful force. Ashen-faced were all the people present. It's clan head Mu. He is attacking the formation. Looking to die. How could that be? Isn't he in close training to ascend to the peak of the Emperor Profound Realm? How could he possibly appear here? Mu Qing'ing was the publicly acknowledged #1 sword expert of the Tianling continent, without compare. It was also widely known that he had been chasing Huang Yuli for many years now. If it were not for the fact that they knew Mu Qing'ing was in closed-door training, they would not have dared to confront Huang Yuli. Who could imagine that this man would spare it no effort to rush over thousands of miles to save her? The matchless and tyrannical 10-directional nightfall formation could not withstand even a single blow. With a wave of his hand, the great formation shattered to pieces. Quickly, escape. Otherwise everyone here will lose their lives. All those who had surrounded and attacked Huang Yuli, turned and scattered. He did not have the time to care about them, and leapt directly to Huang Yuli's side. Only, he was still too late. Mu Qingying's stoic face, which never displayed his emotions, twisted into one of despair and heartbrokenness for the first time. He did not dare to believe his eyes, to believe that he had still come a step late. Helplessly, he looked at the glowing figure of Huang Yuli. Yuli. Why did you do this? Why did you not wait for me to save you? Within the burning trance, a sliver of Huang Yuli's consciousness returned. With that, the picture of Mu Qingying's outstanding face was the final thing embedded into her mind. I never thought you would come. Thank you for treating me like this. If there is another chance, I am willing to do whatever necessary to return your undying love. Unfortunately, the price of detonating one's soul was truly great. She would never have the opportunity to reincarnate. You can also listen on. Muddled-headed and dizzy, Huang Yuli floated about in the murky darkness for a long time. All of a sudden, a bright ray of light appeared in front of her. From within, came faint sounds. Third Miss, you died so unjustly, how could you not think this through properly? The crying made Huang Yuli highly agitated and wanted her to shut up. Yet no matter how much she struggled, she could not muster any strength. An intense female shriek sounded out, "Stupid servant girl, hurry up and scram for this lady." I cannot. Fourth Miss, you cannot act like this. Third Miss body has yet to turn cold and you already want to seize her property. These were all left behind by the old lord. What can you do about it? This slut has already died. Now those things of hers belong to my family. Hurry and scram for me, or I'll give the order to whip you to death and let you accompany that slut of yours. Then Bai Ruoyan proceeded to kick the eyesore of a serving girl as she commanded, "Move everything away from me and be careful. You really couldn't tell that this slut would possess so many good things. Just this porcelain pill bottle, not even I possess one. Move everything out. You really cannot. Fourth Miss. All of my young Miss possessions have already been taken away. Only that vase remains, and that was something the previous lord left behind." The faithful serving girl threw herself forward once again. Lowly servant. Dare to block my way. Beat her to death. This ear-piercing dispute unceasingly entered Huang Yuli's ears, sending waves of sharp pain coursing through her brain. Following the pain came a rush of memories that did not belong to her. It appeared that she had been reborn. The body of Bai Ruoli was the third young miss of the Wu Wei Manor, from the South Yu country. Her father Bai Lu Feng once held the title of #1 expert in the South Yu country, his prowess brilliant. From birth, she was above the masses, a greatly respected princess. Unexpectedly, when she was 3 years old, her father disappeared when he was leading his troops. Her second uncle Bai Lu Jing then inherited the position, pulling down Bai Ruoli's status by 1,000 miles. Finally, on her 10th birthday, she was revealed to be completely ungifted at cultivation, a complete waste. In this martial world, the strong ruled the Tianling continent. Not being able to cultivate meant that you had reached the very bottom of the ladder. From then on, Bai Ruoli was utterly bullied and humiliated by her female cousins from her second uncle's side. The morning before yesterday, her second cousin hosted a birthday celebration. As for Bai Ruoli, who was rushing to attend the event, she was assaulted by a passing male, her reputation falling to rock bottom. Afterwards, Bai Ruoli was extremely ashamed for the adultery rumors that had spread. That very night, she committed suicide by hanging herself. With light movements, she opened her eyes as she rose up from her bed, rising up like the undead. Bai Ruoyan, you caused my death, yet still dare to take my possessions. You have such courage. Hearing this, Bai Ruoyan's legs softened, while her focus were on the beads of cold sweat dripping down her forehead. From behind her, a cry of fright could be heard as the servant stuttered, G, ghost. Deathly pale was Bai Ruoyan's face. So full of fright, her butt plunked straight into the floor. She was wholly unable to stand and could only furiously nudge her butt towards the door. Chuckling, the corners of Huang Yuli's mouth rose up. This eye technique could not turn her into a ghost. Instead, it brought out Bai Ruoyan's deepest and darkest fears. It was hard to imagine that the seemingly arrogant and despotic Bai Ruoyan held such fears. Fears of the third elder sister, whom she bullied to return and haunt her. Truly, as the saying goes, Val people have no courage. Just a moment ago she was calling slut this, slut that. Did she think that this stately princess was on the same level as a lowly servant? This easily bullied. If she did not properly return this favor, then she would be disrespecting the sincere care and concern this younger cousin has given her over the past years. Alighting from the bed, Huang Yuli leisurely approached Bai Ruoyan. Bai Ruoyan could only cry out in alarm, "You, don't come near me. Leave. Get away from me." Voice hushed, Huang Yuli's mouth curved into an extremely demonic smile. "Bai Ruoyan, you were the one to murder me. Even if I become a ghost, I will not let you go." Forcing Bai Ruoyan into a corner, her icy cold hand reached out and clasped her thin neck. Fearful screeches and cries could be as Bai Ruoyan pleaded for mercy. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. The murderer was not me, it was second sister, it was second sister and second madam. It has nothing to do with me, yes, I don't know anything." The tinkling laughter that Huang Yuli released sounded both sinister and strange. "Then why, what is the reason in coming to my room? Wanting to steal my property? It seems to me that you are a shameless woman who would murder for riches." No, it really wasn't me." When she felt the tightening constriction of the ice-cold fingers around her neck, Bai Ruoyan fell into a state of panic. In a great flurry, she had revealed everything. "It really has nothing to do with me, Wu. It was second sister whom he told to come. It was her who told me to find a key and said that everything else would belong to me. Third sister, I momentarily possessed a greedy heart, please believe me. All debts would have its debtor. The one who spread those rumors about you committing adultery really had nothing to do with me," Huang Yuli snarled, "daring to eye my possessions, you equally deserve to die." Her fingers tightened. This caused Bai Ruoyan to start shrieking again, "Please don't. Third elder sister, spare me. I will return everything back to you." As she said this, she flusteredly flung out all the items she had taken from within her clothes. "I have returned everything to you. I beg third sister to be generous and spare me." Sweeping across the things scattered across the floor, she didn't loosen her hand and directly questioned, "Anything else? Anything else?" Puzzled, Bai Ruoyan's eyes became blank as she tried to recall. Everything she had previously taken were all returned, so what was left? Since she was unable to remember anything else, she started desperately take out everything within her possession. She took out money, jewelry, and even the hairpins on her head. "Third sister, I have taken out everything that was on me. I'll give you everything, so please spare my life. You can also listen on." "What status does your mistress have?" "That's right. The ill star of the deceased master and mistress. Not to mention that she is a complete cultivation trash. If it weren't on the fact of being kin, master would not have kept her. This is already showing great benevolence. But who knew that she would dare to commit adultery with a random man? That's truly losing the face of this entire manor. Even death cannot wipe such a stain away. Just a lowly and disgraceful thing, yet she still has the audacity to refuse and hand out the items that the previous master had left behind. Moreover, she still has the cheek to keep it all to herself. But now that she's dead, everything is settled. So everything here would naturally belong to our manor. Third miss, she isn't that kind of person. Even though she was covered in blood and barely breathing, she stubbornly clung on to her last breaths and struggled in a weak voice in an attempt to clear her mistress' name. It was at that moment that a sudden shriek erupted from within the room, followed by a loud bang as the doors flung open. Hearing the commotion, they all turned their head to only see a naked silhouette flying out. "Who is it?" Observing closely, the serving girls asked before crying out, "It's 4th Mississippi." "What happened to 4th Miss? What happened?" Bai Ruoyen looked completely disheveled. Her hair completely in disarray and matted with dust, not a single accessory was seen, and blood was trickling down her forehead. It was too hideous to look at. Still trembling, she cried out deliriously, "Ghost, spare me, third sister, spare me, it wasn't me who harmed you. Please don't come find me, you can also listen on." "4th Miss, what is the matter with you?" Under the astonished gazes of everyone, the room door opened once more. Clothed in white all over, Huang Yuli floated out. Who is it?" "3rd Miss." Bai Ruoyen once again started to wail out in fear. At once, the nursemaid felt that something wasn't right. With large strides, she stood in front of Bai Ruoyen and said, "4th Miss, don't panic. By this old maid's assumption, 3rd Miss isn't a ghost. Who dare to pretend in our manor to be some godly spy, right, ghost?" Once again, Huang Yuli's demonically black eyes glinted coldly. Looking towards her, the old maid felt her head became dizzy while her legs crumpled beneath her, kneeling to the ground. Softly, Huang Yuli whispered, "Everyone give yourselves 20 slaps then get lost." The sounds of slapping ensued. Under the control of Huang Yuli's eye technique, the various serving girls and maids started to diligently slap themselves. Paw! 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 It sounded. By the end of the 20 slaps, everyone's faces had swelled up greatly, causing them to look like steamed buns. Following that, those people hurriedly stood up. They didn't even spare a glance at the bare-naked Bai Ruoyen, running away as if they had peed their pants. Quivering, shaking, Bai Ruoyen staggered. All the while muttering, "Ghost," as she tottered out of the courtyard. With slow and unhurried steps, Huang Yuli followed behind them to the entrance. At the entrance to the street, many people came and left. With a clear and audible voice, Huang Yuli shouted out, "Come see. Wu Wei Manor's 4th Miss is running around the streets naked." A high-standing young lady with fair skin, great bodily features. Not bad, and it costs no money. Suddenly, a naked lady burst out, scaring all in the vicinity before drawing their attention. When everyone heard the loud shouts of Huang Yuli, they couldn't help but wail with great anticipation. Standing in a circle, people started to gather and surround Bai Ruoyen from all sides. Not only was she trapped within the circle, more and more people started to gather and chatter amongst themselves. This crazy lady actually looks quite decent, her body too. Just a shame that she's a bit lacking in the brains. Nonetheless, I have a younger brother who is a bit retarded, 30, and he has yet to marry a wife. I wonder if I can take her home and match him. Whoa, you sure dream well. Didn't you hear what the person just said? She is Wu Wei Manor's 4th Mississippi. Even if she was an idiot, do you think your brother can match her? What? How could this be? I only heard that the 3rd Miss of Wu Wei Manor was useless. Aren't the 4th Miss talents quite decent? How could she be an idiot? Not to mention, running around the street naked. But, it seems like it really 4th Miss Bai. What? What? You didn't see wrongly. Of course I didn't see wrongly. Sitting on the cold floor, she dazedly opened her eyes. Very quickly she realized that she had unknowingly walked out into the street without a single article of clothing on her. Not to mention that she was currently being encircled by a large crowd of people. Out of instinct, Bai Ruoyan let out a loud scream. Frantically she tried to use her hands to cover herself up. Unfortunately, if she covered the bottom, she couldn't cover the top. Embarrassed to death she shouted out loudly, "What are you doing? Perverts! Scram, all of you scram!" As she shouted this, she used all her strength to escape. When she had arrived at a lone corner, her foot suddenly slipped. Fortunately she narrowly avoided falling face down. The crowd behind her was still discussing away. Don't run. I still haven't seen enough. Don't you enjoy being seen by others? Fuck, did you guys hear what she just said? She actually called us perverts. Who in the end is the real pervert? Seeing the main lead run away, Huang Yuli's eyes dimmed, rapidly losing interest. Standing up, she brushed the dust from off her butt and prepared to leave. Just as she was about to step into the doorway, she halted her steps. Strange. Why I do feel as if someone is watching me. Turning around, she quickly scanned for any peculiarities. Seeing none, she turned around again. As she was about to step through the doorway, an immense pressure descended upon her. Her entire being shook. The next second, a mysteriously clothed male appeared from around the corner. He wore a silvery white mask that covered the majority of his face. Only his perfectly chiseled jaw could be seen. His long, black hair hung loosely down, while his cold, thin lips curved upwards, giving off a slightly demonic impression. Just by revealing his lower jaw and his fair skin was enough to make one possess wild thoughts, guessing away at his appearance. What type of face lay under that mask? What outstanding features he possessed, enough for one to lose their soul. With a gaze of interest, he pulled on Huang Yuli. Within those pupils held an intense power that caused one unconsciously to shudder. Huang Yuli's instinct sensed danger. Even though her soul had exploded once and could not compare to before, she still could sense danger. It was definitely something ordinary people could not compare to. Raising her head, she gave the male an icy glare and snapped, "Have you seen enough?" Stroking his chin, he replied, "Haven't seen enough." They all said that Wu Wei Manor's third miss was both a cowardly and weak good-for-nothing person, not a single good point. Presently, with the truth in front of him, it seems that the rumors differed vastly. This third miss seemed to have used a secret technique to control that girl previously. Her spirit was quite powerful. Not matter how you look at it, she did not seem to be good for nothing. Moreover, she was quite two-faced, quite nefarious. This barbed wild rose, although it had yet to bloom, had already opened his eyes. Seeing that he had no evil intentions, Wang Yuli snorted, "If you haven't seen enough, then take you time to look. This lady shall not keep you company." Watching her receding back, the usually frosty face of the man revealed a rare smile. Truly a small fox. As soon as Huang Yuli stepped into the courtyard again, she was greeted with the view of Bai Ruoli's things. They were messily left about by the servants earlier. This caused her to wrinkle her brows. Do they even know about hygiene? They actually threw them everywhere, making me go to the trouble to tidy it up. If I had known earlier, I would have made them slap themselves some more before allowing them to leave. It was that moment that Kai Wei regained consciousness. She then immediately threw herself to Huang Yuli's leg side. Clutching onto her leg, she began to wail loudly. "My third miss, you died so unjustly. It's no wonder that you spirit did not leave and possesses consciousness. Current schedule, 6 regular happy doses a week. You can also listen on." Huang Yuli's mouth twitched. The previous mistress serving girl was quite loyal. Just previously when she was being pressed against the wooden bench and getting beaten to death, she did not forget to protect her mistress. It was just a shame, it seemed like her brain wasn't too good and thought she was actually a ghost. Kai Wei was still wailing away at her feet. Third miss, if you were this strong while alive, how great that would be. If the old master knew that you were killed at such a young age, how heartbroken he would be. Unable to bear the increasingly tragic cries, Wang Yuli yelled out in exasperation, "Stop, stop, stop. Don't wail for the departed anymore, your family's miss isn't dead yet. Can you not speak such depressing words?" Kai Wei abruptly raised her head and stuttered, "What? Young miss isn't dead." Lips curving upwards, Wang Yuli smiled, "Of course I'm not dead. If I died, then wouldn't those who caused my death be delighted? Those people who treated me unjustly are still living happily. How could I die just like that? I'm well and alive." After raising her head, Kai Wei stopped to observe for quite a while before exclaiming out, "Young miss, you didn't die, you really didn't die. Your body is still warm." "Nonsense." As Huang Yuli flicked her sleeve and turned to walk back towards her room, she proclaimed, "In the future, don't cry so easily and lose your miss face. Whomever bullies us, you should fiercely retaliate." Eyes wide in shock, Kai Wei thought that a big change had happened. Not only was third Miss Life was strong and survived this ordeal, her entire person seemed to have changed. In the past, when the second household came and bullied them, third Miss would only secretly cry. She would lament that she had led a tough life from childhood, both parents dying when young and a wastrel at cultivation. She would so say that was reason why people bullied her. Now she says to hit them back. And she had just scared away the fourth miss who had reached the fourth stage of the chi profound realm. Kai Wei moved to tears. God really has foresight. She was known throughout as the daughter of the infamous #1 expert of the Southern Yu Kingdom. How could the third miss be an easily bullied wastrel? Why are still standing there making such a fuss at the entrance for? Hurry up and come in. Hastily, Kai Wei pushed open the doors and entered. Presently, Huang Yuli had bent down to pick up a small white bottle. Pulling off stopper off, she held it under her nose and took a whiff while she reached out to open Kai Wei's mouth. Although those whip's lashes had only caused superficial wounds, they still affected the muscles and bones. If you do not properly treat those wounds now, then they could cause problems in cultivation later. Kai Wei's mind momentarily blanked out. Young miss, what did you just say? Cultivation. This lowly is but a servant, so I don't have the qualifications to cultivate. Even if I do have some bone and muscles injuries, it is okay. Ignoring these words, Huang Yuli poured out 3 pea-sized pellets from within the bottle. She then instructed, take these blood-clotting pills. By tomorrow morning, your wounds would have fully healed. Kai Wei's eyes widened, just like they were popping out of their socket. Third miss, these are high-grade pills. Ah. Just one of these pills can cost up to 200 taels. Even if you have the money, you may not necessarily be able to purchase it. This half bottle was something the old lord left behind for you. Quickly put them away. This is a precious family treasure. Huang Yuli furrowed her brows. They are merely the lowest of the lowest grade pills. Is there a need for such a reaction? Precious family treasure as well. Fine, if I tell you to eat them, then eat them and don't waste them. This lady is still waiting for you to serve me. Without waiting for any remarks, she directly stuffed the pills into Kai Wei's mouth. Mustering all her strength, Kai Wei tilted her head to the side in attempt to dodge her family's Mississippi. Unfortunately, she was still too slow. Before she knew it, her mouth was stuffed with the pills. You can also listen on. Nonchalantly Huang Yuli waved her hand, go out now and properly rest. Tomorrow morning, clean up the courtyard. It has been completely trashed by those dirty people. You truly cannot continue to live here. On the other hand, Kai Wei still possessed that lifeless expression of hers. She really couldn't believe that she had just swallowed 3 high-grade blood-clotting pills. Did the young miss not know how precious those were? Even if one was part of the royal household, they still wouldn't randomly give servants pills, let alone high-grade ones. Not to mention that fact that she had swallowed 3 of them for merely a flesh injury. Even if you want to ruin the family, you wouldn't ruin it like this. Did the young miss think that medicinal pills were like cabbages, growing everywhere? Originally she thought that her family's young miss had become clear-headed. What she didn't realize was, she had only become more foolish. It was only when Kai Wei had blankly shuffled out of the room, did Huang Yuli dawn on an extremely serious expression. She truly could not think of anything else as she pondered. Just how did she snatch an opportunity for rebirth? When she was at the extreme northern region, she was cursed by the masters of several powerful sects due to the godly Sky Phoenix ring. Consequently, she was also humiliated by falling into their ambush, resulting in her choice of self-detonation. Logically speaking, the normal ending would be her soul dissipating. So how did she enter this body? Additionally, who betrayed her to fall into that trap? Even after considering all possibilities for quite some time, Wang Yuli still could not come through with a suitable answer. Since she could not solve it, she put it aside for now. Never mind. Since I was able to come back, it is still a good thing. Currently, the most important task I must do is to quickly strengthen myself and reach my previous power. Her current strength was pitiful beyond pitiful. Even an insignificant girl at 4th level of the Qi Profound Realm could act like a big shot in front of her. How could she possibly talk about taking revenge and wiping this grudge away? Furthermore, since she had taken possession of Bai Ruoli's body, she must teach those scums who had killed Bai Ruoli a proper lesson. That way, it would also be a form of repayment to her. With a plan in mind, Huang Yuli crossed her legs on the bed and began to meditate. Wu Wei Manor had thoroughly used all their power to suppress her. Even the cultivation manuals that their family had passed down through the age had not been given to her. Fortunately, within Huang Yuli's eyes, those cultivation manuals of the Bai family were much too basic and coarse. The first step in cultivation was to absorb qi. You must meld the profound qi within the heaven and earth into your body and meridians. One must then allow the profound qi to pass through all 12 of the meridians, completing one full circuit. This would cleanse the body of all the impurities within and entering the first level. Once you are able to do this, you have successfully entered into the ranks of martial practitioners, becoming one of the most elementary practitioners. This process was extremely tedious. Even to a first-grade talent who had started from the young age of 10, would need at least 3 years to link up all their channels. As for Bai Ruoyan, she was a second-grade talent and was rare for someone of her age, 14, to reach the 4th level of the Qi Profound Realm. Due to this, she did not put Bai Ruoli in her eyes. In her previous life, Huang Yuli was an inheriting disciple to one of the 4 great hidden sacred grounds, the Fire Temple. She possessed the universally shocking 9th-grade talent, enabling her to link all her meridians within a single night. In the history of the Tianling continent, she was the second genius of that tier. She casually reminisced a bit about her past life's cultivation path before drawing on the qi around her. However, from the afternoon all the way to nightfall, she was not able to sense even a single thread of profound qi. With the passing of time, Huang Yuli's expression also became increasingly ugly. Even when she had awoken, Huang Yuli could sense that this body was very weak, bursting with weakness, super-ultra weak. But she had still underestimated the seriousness of the problem. 1 in 2 people usually possessed only a bit of talent. Even those who possessed first-grade talent could, with time and effort, sense a sliver of worldly profound qi. Not to mention the fact that she was currently cultivating with a peak-level Saint-grade upper-level method. In spite of all this, she could not sense anything. This by Rolly really was peak-grade trash. You can also listen on. However, by Rolly's father was known to be the most powerful cultivator of the southern U country. Reasonably, no matter how untalented she was, she shouldn't be a complete waste. Could there some sort of problem? Numerous possibilities flashed through Huang Yuli's mind immediately. These possibilities were all related to curing talentless people. Unfortunately, she felt that all these would not have any effect. Just as she was frustrating over this problem, she heard a loud thunderous clap resounding in her ear. Following that, Huang Yuli felt herself lose consciousness. When she came to, she found herself in a simple adorned room. Right in front of her was a raging inferno. At the center of the inferno was a gigantic silhouette. She squinted her eyes, trying to discern what that was. Huang Yuli's eyes popped out as soon as she recognized it was like those portrayed in the legends. It was a mythical phoenix. As its shimmering golden wings unfolded, it seemed as if they could rip apart space itself. As it lightly waved its wings, the wind blew over like a raging tide, a pressure borne down its surroundings, making it hard to breathe. Raising its head, the phoenix let out a clear and melodious cry. Sweet and graceful it sounded, yet brimming with power as it emanated a domineering aura. Suddenly, the flames started to whirl about furiously as the golden silhouette of the phoenix gradually shrunk in size. Amidst the golden light, it morphed into the shape of a young man clothed in a long golden robe. He had a handsome yet devilish-looking face, complemented with a complexion as fair as white jade. That pair of peach blossom eyes perfectly matched that defined nose and seductive thin lips. In regards to his 5 facial features, there was no flaw you could pick on. That long robe he wore was only casually draped across his body, fully revealing his upper torso. This gave off an air of languidness. Because Huang Yuli had witnessed the entire spectacle, she knew that this loosely robed male was the incarnation of that phoenix. With peerless strength, he was definitely not the man he portrayed himself to be. A harmless but good-looking man. Looking at Huang Yuli, a flash of discontent flashed across his eyes. Girl, what are not you showing the least bit of admiration towards this deity? Ha! This statement left Huang Yuli at a loss. The man went on, as a revered deity, and with such striking elegance, dashing and charismatic, am I not the very personification of beauty itself to you? Huang Yuli was left speechless. It was only after much thought and time did she finally find some words as she spat out, I have met narcissists, but I have never met someone who is shameless to such a degree. The man who had just morphed from a phoenix, although indeed exceptionally handsome and dashing, but if his good looks was to be said to be the very personification of beauty, that would be an overstatement. In her previous life, within the Emperor's city, were the 10 great gods. Each and every one of them possessed outworldly looks and charm. As for Mu Qingying, he was the undisputed first rank. Expression changing, the male's eye narrowed. Girl, you dare disrespect this deity. Do you not know that if this deity wants to kill you, it would be as simple as squishing an ant? The male was originally overbearing and arrogant. But as he was in the middle of his sentence, he suddenly came to a pause. Even his expression had changed greatly. Flabbergasted, Huang Yuli asked, Hey, what happened to you? Under the dumbstruck gaze of Huang Yuli's, the phoenix male rapidly transformed. Bit by bit, he shrunk in size, even his facial features underwent great change. Finally, he became a young boy who was around 3 heads tall. You could still see the evilness within his face, but those big, round and watery eyes, with those marshmallowy cheeks clearly stated, body, delicate, form, soft and strength, weak. Fresh, cute, soft skin. The young boy looked down at his little hands, and panically cried out, "Fuck." I had clearly absorbed profound chi for entire day. How could it only last for such a short time before I changed back? Hearing those words, Huang Yuli narrowed her eyes. Squatting next to the young boy, she raised her eyebrows and said, "Good. In the end, you are just a small brat playing tricks. Tell me, why after cultivating an entire day, I am not even able to sense the slightest bit of profound chi?" You can also listen on. With his stubby legs, he kicked around. Pouting his bun-like face, he struggled desperately. "Let me down. I said let me down. Stinking girl. Country bumpkin. I'm warning you, if you don't release me now and kneel down to beg for forgiveness, I will make you regret it." Chuckling, Huang Yuli replied, "Oh, your age is small, but your temper isn't. A naughty child is itching for a lecture. Watch out or I'll smack your butt." On the young boy's adorable face was an expression of apprehension. This caused him to use more effort in his struggle to escape. Shouting out, "Stinking girl. Just you wait. You also saw it, this little lord's true form was that formidable and majestic phoenix. Currently, it's because I don't possess enough profound chi resulting in my temporary small form. Wait until this little one has recovered. By then, I only need one finger to squash you." So amazing. Lips curling upwards, Huang Yuli loosened her grip. This action nearly caused the plump, round body of the boy to fall and land straight on his bottom. The cute boy hurriedly grabbed onto her arm, not daring to let go. His entire body trembled non-stop, yet he still continued roaring, "You want to kill this little lord? Just you wait." Huang Yuli replied, "Just then, were you not the one who kept asking me to let you go? So why don't you want me to let go now?" The boy could only give her a deathly glare. Continuing, Huang Yuli said, "Enough, don't act anymore. I already saw through it, that phoenix image wasn't yours, was it? Of course that was me. The phoenix is an ancient mythological beast, with matchless power. If you were really that matured phoenix, even if you were gravely injured, you would still be able to make me kneel and cough out blood from your gaze alone. Is there a need for such threats? I think that this is probably a memory of a past senior that you took to act like that, right?" The cute boy. The two people had a standoff for quite some time, before the boy finally admitted his defeat. "Okay, fine, stinking girl. Looks like you still possess some brains, even though that image wasn't mine, it was still my older brother's." Flabbergasted, Huang Yuli asked, "That was your older brother? That's not possible, right? Anyone could see that was an expert, while you, children should just be honest. Otherwise, don't blame this older sister when she gives a proper lesson." "I didn't lie." Infuriated, the child flared up as he spilled everything out. "Even though my age is young, I am still an authentic, pure-blooded phoenix. When I grow up, I will be as dashing and as awesome as my older brother." Still unconvinced, Huang Yuli continued her questioning, "Your spirit is this weak. No matter how you look at it, you do not seem to be an ancient mythological beast. Sincerely and grievingly stated, I really am a phoenix. I am just still a child. When I was just born, there was a great battle. Bringing me with him, brother ran far away, far away. Later, we had met great danger. In order to protect me, brother sealed my soul in the Sky Phoenix ring." Hold up, hold up. In other words, we are currently inside the Sky Phoenix ring. Huang Yuli couldn't help but cry out in shock. In her previous life, ever since she had found the Sky Phoenix ring in an ancient remnant, she had used and tried all sorts of heavenly treasures and methods to make it recognize her as its master. Yet now, without rhyme or reason, it was activated. Puffing out his chest, the cute boy proclaimed, "Humph. Humph. That's right. The Sky Phoenix ring isn't some ordinary god relic. Blood alone isn't enough for it to recognize a master, you must separate a part of your soul and let it merge with ring for it to work. Your luck isn't bad. When you detonated your soul, you allowed yourself to be recognized as its master. You can also listen on. Only in that moment did Huang Yuli realize the answers to her questions, so it was like that. In other words, even though I destroyed my soul, yet I was able to snatch a chance to be reborn. This was all due to the Sky Phoenix ring. There is no method of saving someone when they destroy their soul. Even the Sky Phoenix ring does not possess this ability. When you were detonating your soul, I was still unconscious. By the time I awoke, you were already recognized as its master. It was at this moment, Bairuoli who possessed the heaven-defying flame spirit physique appeared. So I used what little amount of profound chi I possessed and rushed out. Absorbing the information, Huang Yuli felt as if her mind was submerged in a cloudy mist. The Sky Phoenix ring, such a high-grade godly relic, was still unable to save a destroyed soul. So, in the end, how did she survive? Very quickly, she discovered another strange point. Little brat, did you make a mistake? What physique did you say Bairuoli possessed? Clearly she was a peak-grade trash. Immediately, the small boy put on a disdainful expression. What do you understand? This physique of Bairuoli's, even if you were to compare it in the god realm, it would still be very dominating, extremely heaven-defying. Truly so. Huang Yuli was full of doubt. Angry, the small boy bursted out, of course. In your lower realm, a 9th-grade talent is already a peak-level genius. Yet in the god realm, the peak-grade talents all possess innate physiques. While within the various innate physiques, the flame spirit physique is considered the highest grade amongst fire-attributed physiques. While listening, Huang Yuli nodded along, but she still did not fully believe him. What you say makes much sense. Unfortunately, this physique's ability to perceive profound chi that's because the cultivation method you are using is wrong. Where are the errors? Rolling his large grape-like eyes, the boy replied, hee. You want to know, right? On this large expanse of land, only this little lord knows. If you want to know, it all depends on your attitude. Unfortunately, with your rough behavior earlier, I'm afraid that this little lord cannot seem to recall. Hearing this, Huang Yuli released her hands and gently lowered him to the ground. Too delighted, the small boy gleefully said, humph. Now you're willing to admit your wrongs. Too late for regrets. Ah. This little lord will tell you, hey. What are you doing? After Huang Yuli placed him down, she turned his body over and started to vigorously slap his buttocks. Paw. Clear, crisp sounds rang out. This caused the small boy to wail out, stinking woman. Female devil. Release me. You dare hit me. Then I will ever tell the cultivation method. You shall be a piece of trash forever. Huang Yuli merely snickered, little brat, you think I do not know? I am already the Sky Phoenix Ring's owner, while you are merely the spirit of the Sky Phoenix Ring. With a single thought, I am able to silence you. You do not possess any bargaining rights. You. What about it? Are you ready to obediently confess? Large, steaming tears rolled, while his bum burned, the small boy thought for a while. Under the abusive power of this female devil, he could only choose to surrender. From a corner, he pulled out an old book and placed it in front of Huang Yuli. Picking up the book, Huang Yuli saw the 3 large words printed across the cover: 9 Phoenix Transformations. This the God Realm's peak-grade cultivation method for the fire system. It's the Phoenix God race's secret method. If it weren't for the fact that you stepped into some dog shit luck and picked up the Sky Phoenix ring, you would definitely be unable to possess it. Your luck is simply too good. In an extremely sour mood, the small boy sulked while he grumbled out loud. You can also listen on. Huang Yuli chuckled out, I am very sorry. This older sister's luck has always been very good. Picking up the book, she started to casually flip through it. Skimming through its contents, she discovered that it further explained the flame spirit physique in detail. It mentioned that in order to stimulate their vessels, those who possessed special physiques needed to use medicinal herbs which corresponded to their respective element. They also needed to coordinate it with the godly grade 9 phoenix transformations to cultivate. If they failed to do this, not only would they be unable to display any advantages in cultivation, they would also be like trash, unable to sense the world's profound chi. It was no wonder Bai Roli was always treated like trash. Slapping the small boy's head, Huang Yuli smiled. It was hard to imagine that this little thing would still have some usefulness. In the future, this sister will treat you a little bit better. Now, since there is nothing else to do here, I will go cultivate. Hey, wait up. Seeing that Huang Yuli was about to leave, the boy hurriedly jumped up and hugged her thigh tightly. What are you doing? She asked sternly, her voice cold. Lifting his face up, the boy replied, You can't leave alone. Take me out with you. It has been several hundred years since I was stuck in this lousy piece of jade. This little lord is bored to death. I want to go out for some fresh air. Pretending to hesitate, Huang Yuli continued, if a child with an unknown origin was to suddenly appear, how am I supposed to explain it? The boy quickly answered, You don't have to worry about that. I can change back into my original appearance. He smiled and reassured her. The chubby, bun-faced child suddenly disappeared. With a golden flash of light, a palm-sized phoenix appeared in his place. Its baby feathers had yet to fully grow out, causing its overall appearance to be like a yellow fluff ball. Huang Yuli stared blankly. The tiny phoenix chirped twice, and flapped its wings in a proud manner. It personally felt that it was quite cute. Females have always been interested in cute, young animals. Although this female devil was quite ruthless in her methods, but seeing her gaze, she must quite like my true appearance, right? Cupping her hands, Huang Yuli lifted up the tiny phoenix to examine it. She nearly drooled. This meat is just too tender. If one were to make a chicken mushroom stew, the taste would not be bad. The tiny phoenix immediately froze. And, making it into a crispy golden chicken would not be bad either. Big brother, save me. This female devil is just too scary. Oh, how he wished to return home. With a thought, Huang Yuli discovered that she was back in her own room, only to realize that daylight had broken through. Stretching out her stiff limbs, she accidentally touched something was cold as ice. The Sky Phoenix ring had reappeared as an ordinary-looking jade pendant, and laid beside her. On the other hand, the 9 Phoenix transformations had reverted to an extremely tattered and dilapidated book. The fluffy baby phoenix was perched on the Sky Phoenix ring. After casting her a sidelong glance, he flapped his infant wings and flew to the windowsill and started amusing himself as he celebrated his newfound freedom. She made sure to hide the Sky Phoenix ring securely within her clothes before flipping open the 9 Phoenix transformations. Carefully and diligently, she began to study it. Previously, when she was flipping through the Phoenix's cultivation book, she did not read it too closely. But after reading it thoroughly, she found out that to cultivate this technique was not something easily accomplished. This technique contained 9 different transformations, while each of the 9 transformations corresponded to each of the 9 cultivation realms. The flame spirit physique was the best physique to be cultivated with this technique. Unfortunately, due to this physique's uniqueness and this technique's high grade, the resources needed for each breakthrough were tremendous. Just enabling the flame spirit physique to sense profound chi needed more than 10 different types of herbs, while each of the required quantity was enormous. Furthermore, you needed the rare and high-grade flame cloud pearl as the base for the other herbs. The most important and pressing matter that she needed to be completed now was to gather these herbs. Quickly copying down the list of ingredients, she headed out. You can also listen on. Southern U Country's biggest store, Thousand Treasure Pavilion. Customers were streaming in and out continuously. Although Huang Yuli was the manor's young miss, due to her ordinary-looking clothes, no one paid much attention to her. After walking around the shop, she found that Thousand Treasure Pavilion truly deserved its name of being the #1 shop in Southern U Country. All the medicinal herbs on her list were available here. It was just, in regards to the price, it was equivalently heart-wrenching. For example, a stalk of purple basil grass was worth 10 silvers, while one flower bud of the fire sunflower was 8 silvers. And these were only prices for the lowest grade of herbs. If one wanted a higher grade of herbs, the prices multiplied by a few fold. Gritting her teeth and looking at the list given by the little phoenix, she needed at least 100 of each. On top of the fact that they needed to all be high grade too. In all, if she wanted to obtain everything, she needed at least 30,000 silvers. Rubbing her money pouch wryly, Huang Yuli felt that the reality was cold and harsh. Before leaving, she had questioned the maid Kai Wei. Afterwards she was told how pitifully poor she really was. Ever since the disappearance of Bai Lu Feng, her second uncle Bai Lu Jing had used various excuses to assume control over family finances. Bai Ruoli did not possess a single cent. Previously she had relied on pawning various antiques in order to survive the days. The 50 silvers within her possession were only obtained yesterday after extorting Bai Ruoyen. With them, she could only buy 5 stalks of purple basil grass. However, she did not pin any hope in purchasing many herbs from a measly 50 silvers. She had already long planned it out. She was not the continent's #1 armament refiner for nothing. Even though the current her was greatly weakened and could not absorb any profound chi, creating a few toys were beyond trifling. Through that, will she earn her money? But after one lap, she tragically discovered something. She wasn't just ordinarily poor, she was miserably poor. Turned out that even the lowest materials for refining exorbitantly priced. There was no way for the current her to afford it. In her eyes, an extremely crappy, rotten iron low-grade furnace already cost 800 silvers. Not to be mentioned the other items. It was basically highway robbery. In actual fact, she didn't know that the armament profession was built upon money. The previous her was born into a large family. Coupled with her genius innate talent, all kinds of precious materials were easily obtained. Naturally she couldn't put these low-grade products within her view scope. But in the Southern U Country, these low-grade materials were luxury products that only royalty and aristocracy could afford. As Huang Yuli was pondering the question of earning more money, a familiar voice sounded beside her. This profound weapon, how much is it? Turning her head, she saw that it was Bai Ruoyen behind her. This incidental meeting caused Huang Yuli to smile. Her luck seemed to be quite good. Just as she was thinking how she lacked money, someone came to deliver money to her. By then, Bai Ruoyen had also noticed her, and her facial expression immediately turned hostile. Bai Ruoli. You cheap slut, why are you here? Huang Yuli sneered and replied, did you lose your mind? You even need to ask why. The sole purpose in coming to a store is to purchase merchandise. Bai Ruoyen sarcastically laughed too. On what basis can you do that? Can you afford anything within Thousand Treasure Pavilion? You are so poor that you probably can't even afford a single stalk, right? Huang Yuli smiled. Whether or not I can afford it, does not seem to be related to you, right? On the hand, I find it quite puzzling. Just yesterday, someone was involved in such a scandal yet dared to go out today. They really do have skin thicker than the city walls. At the mention of yesterday's events, Bai Ruo Yen couldn't help but want to kill her. You still dare to appear in front of me. Yesterday's affairs were orchestrated by you, right? You dare to fool me like that, I will whip you to death, you slut. As she spoke, she pulled out her whip and lashed out. Huang Yuli had long predicted this. Stepping out, she dodged the strike. Lashing out spitefully, Bai Ruo Yen couldn't even touch even a single thread on Huang Yuli's clothes. Her anger was aroused further. Just thinking back to yesterday's shame on the street when she was being ridiculed and pointed at. She was nearly kicked out too. All she wanted to do now was to whip Huang Yuli to death and relieve the hate and anger she harbored deep within her. You can also listen on. Bai Ruo Yen was so overcome with anger that she continued whipping furiously, not noticing that none of the lashes had landed on Huang Yuli. On the contrary, she had startled quite a number of Thousand Treasure Pavilion's customers. Swiftly, the security of Thousand Treasure Pavilion came to stop them. My two misses, our Thousand Treasure Pavilion does not allow any fighting in here. If you are not here to buy things, then please leave. The shadow boss of Thousand Treasure Pavilion was rumored to be from the royal family. So he had placed regulations whom no one dared to violate. Hearing the guard's words, Bai Ruo Yen didn't dare to continue further and obediently stowed her whip away. Slut, I'll let you go this once. Just you wait. As she declared this, she turned to the shopkeeper she was speaking to earlier. Pointing in Huang Yuli's direction, she said, "Shopkeeper's son, with your Thousand Treasure Pavilion fame and high status, aren't your customers all those with status? This girl is a penniless beggar who cannot afford anything in the store. Her sole purpose is to stir up trouble. Hurry and drive her away." Shopkeeper's son recognized her. She truly was the Wu Wei Manor's fourth young Mississippi. Although Wu Wei Manor cannot be compared to when Bai Lu Feng was here, but they could still be considered one of South Yu country's influential powers. Naturally, the young misses of the Bai family could not be offended. Raising his head, he asked Huang Yuli, "This young miss." Before he could finish his sentence, Huang Yuli already displayed a pitiful expression and said in a low voice, "Fourth sister, how could you say such words like those?" An expression of astonishment was seen on shopkeeper's son's face. Fourth sister. Could it be that she was the rumored and sole daughter to Bai Lu Feng's? That beyond good-for-nothing third young miss, Bai Ruo Yen. You are actually the Bai family's third young miss. It was long said that the young misses of the Bai family were not harmonious. Presently, Wu Wei Manor also did not treat their niece well. Could it be that was all true? Can it be false? Just now, didn't you see that fourth young miss directly pulled out her whip to attack her own cousin? She really lack manners. TSK, the tea truly turns cold when one leaves. That year, it was because of Bai Lai Feng that the Wu Wei Manor rose to such a height. Now when he is missing, even as his daughter is bullied like that, isn't this Bai fourth young miss born of a concubine? Yet possesses such a domineering attitude. She is basically relying on someone else to bully people. Isn't it said that the Bai family's second young miss wanted to marry the crown prince? Coming from such a family, how is she qualified to become the crown prince's imperial concubine? Listening to the murmuring of the crowd, Bai Ruo Yen became more and more red. Clearly that it was that slut who was the mastermind yesterday causing her to lose all her face. Even if she whipped her to death, it wouldn't clear her grievances. So how did it change to relying on others to bully her? Yet she could not explain those feelings. Cautiously she looked at her before weakly speaking again. Fourth younger sister, I know that you are angry over yesterday's affairs. But I really do not know how it became like that. I can explain to you. Actually it was like this, you shut your mouth. As soon as Bai Ruo Yen heard her mention yesterday's affairs, she hurriedly interrupted her. A face full of grief, Huang Yuli bit her lip, then, fourth sister, the money that you owe me, when do you plan on repaying me? Bai Ruo Yen gave a blank look, what money? You forgot. Yesterday you wrote an IOU. Taking out a piece of paper, Huang Yuli waved it around. Bai Ruoyang recognized that sheet. When she was delirious and muddled-headed, Huang Yuli was tricked her into signing it. With the passing of yesterday's events, the fact that she did not kill Huang Yuli was already her good fortune. She still dared to take that out and ask for money. Bai Ruoyan was extremely angry, and angrily stepped forward in an attempt to snatch the IOU away. You can also listen on. Huang Yuli swayed her body lightly and avoided her. Fourth miss, what are you doing? Repaying a debt is heaven's law and earth's principle. Could it be you, the young miss of the stately Wu Wei manor wants to renege on a debt? Not being able to catch her already angered by Ruo Yen beyond belief. Now hearing her words laced with sarcasm, she was extremely furious. You sly and treacherous slut, this IOU is not something that I willingly signed. Hurry and hand it over, or I'll rip you to pieces. Bai Ruoyan was constantly reaching out, but Huang Yuli was as slippery as a roach. She could not even catch a single hair. Unfortunately, as Huang Yuli was dodging, she was also speaking in a grieving tone. Fourth miss, this here in clear black words reads your name right? What do you mean that you signed unwillingly? How could I, your older sister who cannot cultivate, force you to sign your name? How do I possess that ability? That's right. This Bai family fourth young miss is just too excessive. Owing money and doesn't want to repay it. Correct, fourth young Miss Bai is at the fourth level of the Qi profound realm and her cultivation isn't low either. How could the third young Miss force her? Isn't she speaking lies without even batting an eye? Really befitting of someone born of a concubine, doing such a scandalous thing in such an audacious manner. She is totally losing the face of Wu Wei manners. Bai Ruo Yen nearly spit out a mouthful of blood. Yesterday, it was unknown as to what methods Huang Yuli used. But the fact that she was not clear-headed was the truth. What she said was all the whole truth, but why did no one believe her at all? Not only this, on the faces of everyone present were clear signs of loathing and despise while Huang Yuli drew all the sympathy. Even the guards of Thousand Treasure Pavilion were standing in front of Huang Yuli, protecting her. Poking her head out from behind the guards, Huang Yuli shyly said, Fourth younger sister, I know you hold a grave misunderstanding towards me. Yesterday's affairs, I really can explain them. What do you have to explain? Presently there are many people present, so I will honestly speak the truth and allow everyone to be the judge. In front of so many people, if I were to speak a single lie, I will receive retribution. Bai Ruoyan's heart gave a small jump. Yesterday's affairs were the biggest humiliation of her entire life. She wished that no one would ever come to know of it. Yet now, Huang Yuli wanted to narrate everything from start to finish out here. What was there to say? Was she going to say that she was running around naked in the streets? Those people on the street that day were common people. Even if they did see her in her most humiliating moment, they couldn't tell who she was. Even if they did recognize her, they wouldn't dare to speak of it. But the customers of Thousand Treasure Pavilion were not the same. If they were not aristocracy, they were rich merchants. If Huang Yuli were to narrate the events of her running around naked, she would become the laughing stock of the entire kingdom. However, the crowd encircling them held great praise towards Huang Yuli's actions. Not bad. It should be like this. Who is right and who is wrong? If you tell us the story we would know right. Third Miss isn't the daughter of Bai Lu Feng for nothing, behaving with integrity and honesty. Hurry and tell was what happened. Correct. We cannot misunderstand fourth young Miss either. You should still explain the situation at that time. Only this will be fair, just and right. Bai Ruoyan's face turned green. Only she saw Huang Yuli nodding her head in agreement. Okay. Well, yesterday's affair went like this. You can also listen on. Fourth sister, when you visited my courtyard yesterday, I happened to be asleep. Sadly, my maid Kai Wei lacked manners and didn't properly serve you, so you generously taught my personal maid a lesson. Unfortunately, in the process, you accidentally broke some antiques given to me from my father. That's why you wrote this IOU. When the crowd heard this, they started chattering once again. This fourth miss, isn't she too arrogant? Taking the opportunity when her elder sister is asleep to steal her things. Not mentioning the fact that she was hitting her servant, TSK. Arrogance and despotism, she sure doesn't lack either of them. Whomever marries her in the future will be cursing their 8 future lives. This third miss is just too pitiful. Bai Ruoyan was at her wit's end. Due to her anger, she could not control herself and directly lash out with her whip as she shouted, venomous slandering. You, shut your mouth for me. Hopping lightly to the side, Huang Yuli clutched her stomach and exclaimed, Fourth sister, this one really did not speak groundlessly. At the time, there were many people on the busy street who saw that you did not wear. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Stomping her foot furiously, Bai Ruoyan released all the rage within her. She could no longer pay attention to her surroundings as she directly charged forward to attack. Bai Ruoli, shut your mouth. If you dare say even one extra word, you will be looking for death. When everyone present saw this, who couldn't understand the hidden meaning? Bai Ruoyan, who didn't allow Huang Yuli to speak, clearly held a guilty heart. Are these the teachings of Wu Wei manner? Not returning her debts you can barely forgive, but to insult her cousin like that, it truly makes one unable to watch any further. In an instant, everyone began to despise both Bai Ruoyan and Wu Wei manner. Bai Ruoyan was red, it seemed as if her face was boiling. Yet she was unable to doing anything towards Huang Yuli. At that time, Huang Yuli spoke up, it's okay. Fourth sister, since you do not want me to speak, then I will not continue speaking. We are all one family, is there a need for you to use your whip? Humph. Who is your family? Fortunately you still know how to be afraid. If you dare to speak nonsense again, then watch how I'll deal with you. When Bai Ruoyan saw Huang Yuli biting her lower lip, she was fooled into thinking that she was afraid. This caused Bai Ruoyan to smile smugly. However, she didn't possess enough face to remain lingering any longer. Leaving that harsh remark, she wanted to turn and leave. Fourth sister, wait a moment, hastily, Huang Yuli called out, that IOU, the sparkling white piece of paper once again fluttered in front of Bai Ruoyan. This time, Bai Ruoyan did not dare to deny it further. In front of so many present, if Huang Yuli were to say anything more. Touching her pocket, she threw out a pouch filled with silver. Consider yourself fierce. Take it. Catching the pouch, Huang Yuli poured out the contents. Under Bai Ruoyan's murderous gaze, she began to count them. Finishing, she threw out 2 words, not enough. Eyes practically popping out, Bai Ruoyan asked, what did you say? Blinking her eyes innocently, Huang Yuli replied, Fourth sister, this IOU clearly states that you owe me 1,200 silvers. Why did you only give me 120 silvers? 1,200. Why don't you just steal them? But, that's what is stated on the IOU, right? If you do not want to admit it, I can go find a witness, enough. Biting down on her lip, Bai Ruoyen interrupted her. All the while, her hands were trembling non-stop. 1,200, this definitely wasn't a small number. Even she, a stately young miss, only received 50 silvers from her monthly allowance. You can also listen on. Coincidentally, she did have 1,200 silvers on her today. These silvers were something that she obtained after using an entire year of coaxing from Wu Wei manners by Lu Jing. In the new year, it would be the time when the 7 great martial schools begin to recruit new disciples. With Bai Ruoyan's second-grade talent, as well being at the 4th level of the profound Qi realm in her young age, she was considered quite outstanding. If she was able to enter the 7 great martial school, regardless of her strength and status, they would both be elevated greatly. That was the reason why she wanted to obtain 1,200 silvers. She was hoping to find a suitable armament in 1,000 Treasure Pavilion to increase her overall strength. So when the time comes, she would be able to reveal outstanding results. If it weren't for the fact that she desperately wanted to find one, she would not have left the house so early after her embarrassment. But who would have thought that before the silvers even had a chance to warm up in her pocket, she met this malicious star, Huang Yuli. Would she really need to give the money to her? Bai Ruoyan could feel her heart bleeding away. But, if news of her affair on the street were to be revealed and if Huang Yuli were to find a witness, then her innocence and reputation will be all gone. Even if she did successfully pass the exam and enter the top-ranking school, the Heavenly Body School, she would never be able to marry into an elite family. Huang Yuli was presently watching quite leisurely. After struggling for some time with a face like someone was slicing at her heart, Bai Ruoyan finally took a large bag out. This is 1,200 silvers. We will exchange the money and the IOU at the same time. Huang Yuli wasn't unreasonable. After obtaining her money in both hands, she straightforwardly took out the IOU and handed it over to Bai Ruoyan. 4th sister, you must be careful. Please be very cautious and ensure that no one obtains it to swindle money from you. Chuckling, she gave the bag of money a good look. It really is 1,200 silvers. Its weight sure isn't light. Truly befitting of the manor master's daughter, so different from me his niece. 1,200 giving it out so easily. I will have to ask 4th sister to continue to take care of me in the future. Under her barrage of taunts, Bai Ruoyan was really at her limit. Eyes darkening, she narrowly avoided faintly on sight. 4th young miss. The maid that accompanied her, hurriedly rushed up to support her. Bai Ruoyan couldn't stay any longer. Flicking her sleeves in anger, she turned and promptly left. The surrounding crowd swiftly followed suit and scattered. In a day's time, the events of the Wu Wei manor bullying the sole daughter of the missing elder brother, swiftly traveled throughout the entire capital. This resulted the reputation of the inhabitants of the Wu Wei manor to sweep the floor, reaching rock bottom. After obtaining her 1,200 silvers, Huang Yuli began to purchase all necessary items she needed. This was the first time that shopkeeper's son saw the 3rd young miss ever come to 1,000 Treasure Pavilion. Who knows what this good-for-nothing person wanted to buy? After all, the majority of 1,000 Treasure Pavilion's merchandise were armaments and pills. These clearly were catered specifically for martial practitioners. Filled with curiosity, shopkeeper's son followed behind Huang Yuli. 3rd Miss Bai, I please ask you what you want to purchase? Casually, Huang Yuli pointed to the most ordinary armament furnace on the shelf. That furnace, I will need your help to deliver it to the side courtyard at Wu Wei Manor. Normally, armament furnaces were the height of 2 people, and weigh more than several hundred jin. So naturally they provided delivery along with purchases. Shopkeeper was momentarily stunned. This, young Miss Bai, do you know what this is used for? Isn't it just an armament furnace? Huang Yuli looked at him strangely. This was also one that was of a bad quality with an irrational composition which was likely to affect and spoil the end quality of the product. Shopkeeper's son responded, "Then what do you want to buy this for? You should know that this armament furnace is something that armament refiners use to make armaments. If ordinary people were to buy, it would have no use whatsoever. You can also listen on." Huang Yuli said, "Of course I know this. What is the matter? Could it be that I am unable to purchase this armament furnace?" Shopkeeper's son continued with his blank expression, "Young Miss Bai, if you really want to purchase this, then this store naturally would not stop you. Then, isn't that fine? Here is 800 silvers. Hurry and find some people to deliver it over." With some impatience, Huang Yuli interrupted him. As shopkeeper's son received the silvers, he was both stunned and helpless. Everybody said that this third young Miss Bai was good for nothing. But now it seemed that not only was she good for nothing, she was also a spendthrift homewrecker. An armament furnace was something that was very highly priced. Without even considering it, she took out money to buy it. It didn't even possess much exhibition value. If she could find no use for it, then wouldn't it be basically throwing money into the river? 800 silvers. Even if you were to buy some ordinary rank pills, you could still buy a small bottle's worth. But a shopkeeper's son wouldn't hold any grievances towards money. Seeing how easily Huang Yuli handed the money over, he hastily added, "Yes, yes, yes. Young Miss Bai, please rest assured. Our 1,000 Treasure Pavilion's delivery service is very fast, secure and reliable. Promising you that it will arrive around this afternoon." Huang Yuli gave an N and walked to the next counter. Whilst the people around her all raised their eyebrows, placing the label of spendthrift homewrecker on her. Everyone all shared the same thoughts. They assumed that Huang Yuli possessed too much money to spend, hence her reckless purchase towards that furnace. Not one person thought that she would actually use it. The reason being that the occupation that used this furnace was a very rare and very noble career in the Tianling continent. Even if they were just a rank 1 armament refiner, they would still hold great power and authority in a small country like South Yu. It is obvious that profound qi elevated a martial practitioner's strength. Between two practitioners of the same level, if one possessed an armament that suited them, then would be able to crush their opponent, doing whatever they pleased. Whilst there were also several requirements needed to become a refiner. You must simultaneously possess both fire and metal attributes, along with a strong spirit force. Lacking any one of these, you would not be able to become a refiner. Just possessing 2 attributes was already very rare, 1 in 100 opportunity. Furthermore, you need both fire and metal, plus a strong spirit force. With those 2 demanding prerequisites, the chances of finding a person like that would be the same as getting struck by lightning. Additionally, with each rank promotion, there will be a great consumption of materials. If you do not have a powerful backer, then it would be almost impossible to improve and advance. Due this and the occupation's rarity, their status naturally rose sharply. No matter where they go, they would be warmly welcomed. You must know, this third young Miss Bai was the nationally recognized trash, good for nothing. How could she possibly be an esteemed and noble armament refiner? Huang Yuli didn't mind what others thought of her. Acting as if nothing happened, she walked to the section containing armament materials. This area was already browsed by her earlier, so she knew what she needed to buy. "Shopkeeper, I want a stock of Shaoxiang bamboo, a piece of ochre-colored tin stone, 20 pieces of North River mica, 3 pieces of iron essence." Hearing how Huang Yuli called out the names of these materials so familiarly, shopkeepers' sons were practically popping out of their sockets. These were all common materials for refining. Third Miss Bai bought both an armament furnace and materials. What did this mean? It would mean that she was preparing to refine something. You can also listen on. After looking at the carriage for a short while, Huang Yuli silently moved out of sight. She did not care who the owner of the horse carriage was, after all it had nothing to do with her. She never cared much for rumors and gossip in the first place. Refining, earning money and cultivating were the things she actually cared about. With quick steps, she left the area. What she didn't notice was that the window of the carriage behind her was open. With the open window, it revealed the perfect shape of a male's face. Thin but distinct lips and skin like jade. On his face he wore a silver mask that was almost like a second layer of skin on his face. This clearly was the male who had a brief exchange with Huang Yuli in the back courtyard yesterday. As he watched the thin and quickly receding back view of Huang Yuli's, the male's line of sight seemed to be glued to her. So matter what, he could not take his eyes off her. This third young miss of the Bai family, yesterday should have been the first time they meet. But for some unknown reason, she gave him a very unusual but familiar feeling. Like every single motion of hers, her frowns, her smiles, her steps were already carved years ago into the depths of his heart. Today, he had arrived very early. Early enough to see the weak appearance of Huang Yuli, her pitiful act and her trick playing around by Ruo Yan. The entire process of her swindling by Ruo Yan to pay her that large sum of money were seen by him. Everybody present thought Huang Yuli to be a pitiful and innocent, good-for-nothing girl. Only he see differently, the girl was clearly disguised as a pig in order to eat the tiger. Playing everyone. Speaking of which, this was really strange. This girl clearly wasn't a beauty. If you were to talk about body, she had no body shape, and the face, there was nothing either. But what stunned people was her crafty smile. Once she obtained the money, she couldn't help but reveal how proud she was of herself. For no rhyme or reason, she attracted the entirety of his attention. This type of feeling, he had never felt before. The two personal guards beside the male both exchanged a glance. They could both see the shock displayed within each other's eyes. God, this was the first time that they saw their strong and resolute highness reveal such a warm gaze. Furthermore, it was towards a young girl who clearly hadn't developed well. The curve of those lips were much too clear. Could it be that their highness did not realize? Is it possible that his highness was moved by her? As soon as they thought how icy cold their highness was to females, the fact that he could find a girl that he liked was a good thing. But, his highness standards were isn't that a bit too unreliable? The third young Miss Bai was the infamously known good-for-nothing. While his highness possessed heavenly talent, they were worlds apart. This girl is wholly unable to match him. Only when the Huang Yuli's figure disappeared around the corner did the male regain conscious again. He then beckoned to one of his guards, instructing him, "Go investigate for me the purpose of third young Miss Bai's visit to Thousand Treasure Pavilion today. What did she purchase and for what reason?" Accepting the order, the Imperial Guard went to complete it. Shortly after, shopkeeper's son was escorted out. Standing in front of the horse carriage and shaking like a leaf in fear, he gave his respects to the male. "Lord, what you have asked is kept confidential for the customer. According to rules we are unable to reveal anything." Frostily, the male swept his gaze down. With just a single gaze, he had caused shopkeeper's son's legs to crumple, making him kneel on the ground. Head beaded with sweat, he didn't dare to hesitate any longer and hastily revealed everything. "Lord, please calm down. It's not like I cannot say it. What third Miss Bai bought were all related to armament refining." When the male heard him listing all kinds of materials, he couldn't help but become stunned. But shortly afterwards, the corners of his mouth rose. "Looks like that little girl is preparing to begin refining. It's just unknown, what type of armament will she make? Stroking his jaw, he leisurely said, "This shop, this lord will buy it. You can also listen on." Startled, shopkeeper's son raised his head and said, "Lo, Lord, our master definitely will not agree to selling 1,000 Treasure Pavilion. What you may not know is, the owner is part of the royal household." The male did not respond. He gave a glance around and then proceeded to pick up the jade teacup from the table and began to drink lightly. His fingers were slender but powerful and looked like jade. The mere action of him raising the teacup possessed both a graceful and noble bearing, highly pleasing to the eye. The personal guard beside the horse carriage walked up to shopkeeper's son and cut off his sentence. "Isn't the boss behind your shop just a lord of Dongan? Just by his status alone, he wants to fight against our master? Hurry and inform your lord of Dongan that our master wants to buy this store. Tactfully prepare the estate's title deed. Tomorrow our master will send someone over to retrieve it." In that moment, shopkeeper's son was at a loss for words. Lord Dongan, he was the emperor's nephew with matchless identity. Yet the mysterious man in front of him didn't seem to put that identity in his eyes. Could it be that his own identity was something far above Lord Dongan's? He couldn't possibly be one of the emperor's princes. When he thought this far, shopkeeper's son's heart jumped. He couldn't possibly be the rumored. But it had been many years since that person last appeared. If it really was him who had returned, then it would be exceedingly serious. To what was happening behind her, Huang Yuli was oblivious. The speed of 1,000 Treasure Pavilion's delivery service really wasn't just empty words. By the time she arrived home, the 2-person tall furnace was already neatly placed within the study. Currently, the maid Kai Wei was circling the furnace with a face full of amazement. Seeing that Huang Yuli had returned, she hurriedly walked to greet her. "Third young miss, what did you go out to do? This armament smelting furnace, was it truly bought by you? Could this possibly be fake? But this is something only armaments refiners can use." Huang Yuli chuckled and said, "Yesterday when I went to the study, I found a book that my father had left behind. When I opened it, unexpectedly it was a personal letter from an armament refiner. There were also detailed explanations regarding refining and smelting. So I decided to try my hand at it." Kai Wei blankly listened, but how could refining be this simple? Don't others say that armament refiners are like gods? Can stone really become gold? I think you must need extremely high talent in order to succeed, right? Of course I possess refining talent. My father had said in the letter that he had tested my potential when I was younger. That is why he wrote that letter and told me to train diligently, improving every day. Huang Yuli was blurting out nonsense non-stop. But Kai Wei wasn't experienced or knowledgeable like shopkeeper Sunday. She was someone of ordinary birth, furthermore she was but a lowly servant. At most, the information she could obtain was from listening to others discuss how difficult the profession was. She was oblivious to the actual difficulty. Hearing Huang Yuli speaking like that, she easily believed her. She happily replied, "Turns out it was the previous master who said this, naturally this wouldn't be wrong. This is really too good. Third young miss, if you really are able to become an armament master, the current master and his family would no longer dare to bully you." Huang Yuli on the other hand met with something unexpected. Look like that cheap, old man by Lu Feng, of hers truly wasn't simple. Just through his good reputation alone, she was able to swindle others. Those years, he was definitely a highly influential man of the crown's. Just how did he disappear? Suddenly thinking of something, she said, "Right, I need you to complete a task for me. Go find a couple of beggars outside and ask them to spread the news of my fourth sister running around naked in the streets. The further the news spread, the better. The best result would be spreading it throughout the entire capital. You can also listen on." Eyes wide, Kai Wei hesitantly said, "Third young miss, this isn't too good, right?" That day, fourth young miss must have definitely met with some mishap, resulting in her actions. If this fuss blows up in the capital, then how shameful it will be, Wang Yuli sneered. I precisely want her to be humiliated. But, third young miss, if fourth young miss chastity really were to be questioned, then with your identity as a young miss in the manor will also be affected. Wasn't I already framed by others, saying I secret meetings with a man, already losing the family's face? What reputation am I afraid of ruining? Huang Yuli became a bit impatient and she continued, enough, looking from all angles, you do not seem like my maid at all. Go do as I say. Seeing that she was angered, Kai Wei went to do her bidding. Frowning her brows, Huang Yuli guessed that her maid had been influenced by the previous lord too much. Her courage was even smaller than a watermelon bug. How could this acceptable? She must find a suitable time to train up her courage. When Kai Wei left, she locked the doors to the study. She also set a simple trap to avoid others from entering. The small fluffy phoenix ball then flew out of her sleeves. Once it landed, it transformed into an arrogant-faced child. Within its large, round, watery purple eyes were clear expressions of despise. Good. Female demon, you are too treacherous. Without shame. Just earlier this morning you received that stinking and strange Auntie's silvers and now you rush to publicize her affairs. Do you still possess a human's conscience? Huang Yuli did not possess the slightest bit of guilt. So what if I took her silvers? That IOU was something she wrote herself. It is heaven's law to repay your debts. If she doesn't want me to spread it, did she pay any hush money? The small phoenix replied, then her IOU, didn't you trick her into signing that? You already received a sum of money, yet you still want to receive hush money. Huang Yuli icily replied, little brat, I'll warn you not to talk recklessly. What trickery? It was that girl who took the initiative to come here first to destroy my property. All I received was the appropriate psychological compensation. As for the matter of the hush money, that is a completely different matter altogether. Who told her to run around naked? An eye for an eye, each and every debt must be calculated clearly. I did not indiscriminately go asking for money. The small phoenix was thoroughly stunned by her shameful calculations. This female demon was not only black on the outside, even her intestines were black. One truly would feel pity for the fourth young miss in offending this female demon. Even if she didn't die, she would at least shed a layer of skin. Just as he was blankly thinking, Wang Yuli suddenly picked him up. Just as he wanted to struggle, he was swiftly released in an opening of the furnace. Her eyes curved in smiles, Wang Yuli asked in an extremely gentle and warm tone, little brother, help big sister with something, okay? What do you want to do? Very cautiously, he withdrew his body backwards. Just a moment ago, her face was filled with sinister calculations and in a blink of an eye, she was full of sweet smiles. The small phoenix didn't feel moved, on the contrary he could feel beads of cold sweat appearing. It's very easy, just a little thing. You know that in order to refine armaments, the power and quality of the flame is very important. As a powerful and grand ancient mythological phoenix, your innate flame must also be equally formidable, right? If you just breathe a small breath of fire, and open your mouth to help, you will be assisting this big sister by a lot. Isn't it easy? He furiously shook his head. No can do. No can do. The phoenix's true flame is something formed from our origins. I am still young. If I were to recklessly spit out flames, then it could drastically affect my future growth and development. You can also listen on. Huang Yuli's refined eyebrows arched upwards. You said you cannot. Little brat, you have already freeloaded for 2 days. You also absorb so much profound chi too. I just ask you do a little bit of work and you are complaining you're tired. Suffering her glare, his voice turned soft. What freeloading, eating and sleeping for free? I only ate 2 meals here, and they were all thin rice gruel. Oh, I know now. You lied saying you are some ancient beast, you definitely deceived me. You can't even spit out a mouthful of fire. You can only be a phoenix, or your phoenix race isn't some godly race at all. Forget it, forget it. Go to the side. Seeing as you are still young, I won't fuss over your lies. But you must remember, lying to people is not a good thing to do. You must be a honest child. Purposefully Huang Yuli said this. Who said I can't release fire? When he was questioned, the arrogant little phoenix immediately jumped up. You can insult this little lord, but you could not insult this little lord's race. Jumping up, he breathed in and let out a large breath of air. Swoosh, it sounded out. A bright golden flash appeared. That stream of golden-colored flame lit up the entire study brightly. Huang Yuli couldn't help herself but excitedly stepped forward. True Phoenix Flames. This is the legendary Phoenix True Flames. In the top 10 rankings of flames, the True Phoenix Flames were ranked first. It was also said that it was only the God realm that possessed this type of heaven-defying flame. With it, you were able to greatly increase the armament's grade and efficiency. This was a flame type that she never saw in her previous life. Yet today, she easily saw this flame enter her possession. Smiling joyfully, Huang Yuli rubbed the phoenix's head. So clever. Your performance today was very good. So tomorrow this older sister will add meat to your meal. Looking at her for a while, the little phoenix suddenly with a swish shrunk, changing back into its fluffy feather ball shape. Flabbergasted, Huang Yuli stared at it. Looks like what the little brat said was true. Just blowing out that ball of fire was really taxing on it. It wouldn't really affect its growth. Feeling a bit guilty, she cupped the little phoenix in her hands and placed it on a soft surface. Creak. Heading tilting to the side, the little phoenix fell asleep. After rubbing its fluffy stomach briefly, Huang Yuli returned to the furnace. In her previous life, she was a grand 9th rank armament refiner in the Tianling continent. Her techniques in the refining had reached the pinnacle. But the current her didn't possess the slightest shred of profound chi or dual attributes in fire and metal. Not matter how high her skills, it would be hard to succeed. But now she possessed the true phoenix flames, making it an entirely different story altogether. Huang Yuli threw in all the materials she bought in the afternoon in one motion. Holding her breath in concentration, she then closed her eyes. As the golden-colored phoenix flames burned around the furnace, it cast a disk of light on her face. She sat there without moving for a long time before abruptly opening her eyes. In the next moment she sent a palm towards the fire, then another one and another one. In a blink of an eye, she had already sent out more than 100 palm strikes. The originally weak golden flames burst into a raging inferno. The materials instead the furnace also gradually began to merge together. At speed in which normal people could still see, they gradually molded into a distinct shape. If a true refiner were to stand by her side, they would most definitely be stunned by the sight. You can also listen on. Which armament refiner didn't anxiously and cautiously watch their flames while so carefully put the materials into the furnace, one by one? Only when the first item's impurities were eliminated, did they dare to add the second item. Just this process of eliminating impurities would take several hours. This was even more stressful in the forming of the weapon's actual shape. Each and every palm strike could incur a different reaction. If you were to make even the slightest error, all your previous effort would have gone to naught while also wasting all those materials. A more serious consequence would be an explosion. This was especially concerning for fires of such intensities and sizes like the one she was using. If this fire were to explode, then it could raise the surrounding area to the ground. Yet Huang Yuli's current actions were the complete opposite of careful and cautious. She directly threw all her materials into the furnace in one go, and afterwards, they condensed and solidified together. In the time it took burn half a stick of incense, Huang Yuli snorted out and stopped her hand movements. The raging inferno gradually calmed and died down into a weak and small flame. Wiping the sweat from her forehead, she opened up the lid. Lying quietly at the bottom of the furnace lay 3 different armaments. These 3 were emitting a vibrant cyan glow. With a single glance, you were able to tell the immense energy contained within them. Taking out the armaments, Huang Yuli gave them a look and let out a sigh. 3rd rank armament, isn't this a little too trashy? As expected. Without any profound chi, my dreams of refining top-quality armaments is a bit too far-fetched. Looks like I need to quickly obtain those herbs to begin my cultivation. Otherwise I will not be able to refine higher-quality armaments. If anyone else were to be informed of her thoughts, they would spit out mouthfuls of blood on sight. For an ordinary refiner, the success rate was only around 10%. Not only did she succeed in one try, she also refined 3 armaments. Furthermore, these 3 armaments were all formed from low-quality materials. This type of monstrous result was too hard to imagine. Against all expectations, she was this displeased with this result. Putting the newly refined articles to the side, Huang Yuli allowed herself to rest for a while and recover her energy. Afterwards, she threw in another batch of materials and began refining again. Diligently, without much rest, she refined the entire night. By the time the morning rays had started to creep out, her finished goods were littered in small mountains around her. Since she did not use prana chi to refine these, her consumption of physical strength was great. Without choice, she was forced to return to her room. Falling onto her soft bed, she immediately dozed off. Sleeping beside her, the little phoenix was startled awake by her movements. "Ji," he cried out as he awoke and flapped his wings. But very quickly, he returned to his world of dreams. It was like that one person and one pet slept all the way to the afternoon of the next day. Bang! 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 Huang Yuli was awoken by a series of knocks at her door. Rubbing her eyes, she sleepily asked, "What's the matter?" "Third young miss, not good. Second young miss has brought a group of people over. She is adamant on meeting you." I have no way to obstructing her. In a single and smooth motion, Huang Yuli pulled the door open, asking, "What's the situation?" Anxiously, Kai Wei informed, "Third young miss, hurry up and find a place to hide. Second young miss has already heard the rumors spread yesterday, that's why she came here. It's probably to vent in the place of fourth young miss." It was at that moment, following a banged sound, where the back courtyard's gates kicked open roughly by someone. An old woman shouted out loudly, "Open up! Hurry and open up! Did everyone die? The second young miss has graced her presence here. Why aren't you all rushing to pay your respects? You can also listen on." Huang Yuli revealed a mysterious smile. "Turns out it was second elder sister, that's good. It saves me the trouble of going to find her myself." Kai Wei urgently pressed, "Third young miss, what time is it now to joke? Please take this chance to escape through the back door. This servant will use herself to buy you some time. Otherwise, when second young miss arrives, she will definitely attack. Second young miss is the daughter of the first wife of this household's master. Additionally, she is also a great genius in regards to cultivation. If she were to hit you, there would be no one to defend you." Huang Yuli's thin lips hooked up, "Hit me? What she seeks, I won't let her obtain it. Go, let us go meet this second elder sister of mine. Let us see just how mighty this South U country genius is. Third young miss. Huang Yuli steadily walked out. On the other hand, Kai Wei was dashing and jumping to her in small steps. She was already worried beyond compare. What was wrong with third young miss? Ever since the day she was carried home, all the things she did were unconventional. Not even mentioning the matter of her generous pill-giving, now she actually dared to go meet with second young miss. Who didn't know that Bai Ruoqi possessed fourth-grade talent? She was only 16 this year yet was already at the 7th level of the Qi Profound realm. In the entire country of South Yu, you could count the amount of people who possessed this type of talent on one hand. It was because of her, did Bai Ruoqi seem even trashier than normal. As for Bai Ruoqi, she didn't allow a single bullying opportunity to slip by. When she didn't have anything to do, she would come to give her portion of frigid irony and scorching sarcasm, grabbing at every chance to torment her miserably. Normally, third young miss didn't have enough time to hide. While today, she took the initiative to seek her out. This time will be catastrophic. Who knows how wretched she will be after her torment. Burning with anxiety Kai Wei but was unable to do any preventative measures. The back courtyard's entrance doors were roughly smashed open by the old servant Bai Ruoqi brought with her. With a high and mighty demeanor, she crossed over and met with Bai Ruoqi face to face. Bai Ruoqi. Seems like you really didn't die, you cheap slut. Bai Ruoqi's figure was outstanding, her 5 facial features displayed her feminine beauty. Her temperament was cold and arrogant. Adding these together and placing them with her 4th-grade talent, she truly a ice beauty, and the goddess to many noblemen's sons. It was only Bai Ruoqi who constantly suffered her bullying knew of her true persona. Under that mask of cold arrogance lay a wicked, harsh, vicious and merciless heart. Huang Yuli chuckled slightly. Who is the cheap slut cursing at? The cheap slut is cursing you. Watching the satisfied smile on Huang Yuli's face, Bai Ruoqi reacted and spat out, after hanging yourself, you mouth sure has become clever. No wonder 4th sister was swindled by you yesterday. Saying that it was some ghost. Clearly it was you cheap girl executing your dirty methods. A face full of innocence Huang Yuli replied, second sister, I'm afraid you are falsely accusing me. Yesterday when 4th sister came, she started shouting and running away. This gave me quite a fright and made me wonder if she had bumped into something. Continue acting. If you weren't pretending to be a ghost to frighten her, how could she possibly run home so deranged looking? While also running on the streets, bare. Losing the face of our Wu Wei manor. When she recalled the scene of a large crowd huddled around the entrance of Wu Wei Manor pointing and talking, Bai Ruoqi's face turned green. When this type of thing happened, not only did Bai Ruoyan lose face, as her elder sister, her own chastity may be questioned. She still hoped to marry into the royal family. How could she allow herself to obtain such a bad reputation? What am I pretending? Within Huang Yuli's eyes she portrayed great innocence. If she needed more, she would display more innocence. 4th sister is a grand 4th-level profound Qi realm practitioner. What can I do to her? Suspiciously, Bai Ruoqi thought for a bit. Her 3rd sister was a piece of trash, who possessed as much courage as a mouse. How would she possess the ability to make 4th sister suffer such a loss? Could there some unknown point she was uninformed of? You can also listen on. Even if this was the case, she couldn't allow this cheap slut off easily. She coldly chuckled, even if she did bump into something bad, the cause was because you, cheap slut. You unlucky person. I long said that you were bearer of bad luck. Making your father die wasn't enough, now you even want to strike out at your cousin. Why don't you do us a favor and die already? Blinking her eyes, Huang Yuli replied, Second sister, look at what you're saying. Aren't you alive, living just fine? In the entire manor, it is only you who frequents here the most. You have yet to die, so how am I able to curse others to their deaths? What's your meaning? Taken back by her words, Bai Ruoqi paused before reacting again, little slut, are cursing for my death. On Huang Yuli's face, she wore her Swedish smile. Second sister, how could speak like that? We are blood-related cousins, while also being young miss of Wu Wei Manor. If I am a little slut, then what would you be, second sister? A big slut. Then what about second auntie? The universe's unequaled super-ultra-awesome big slut. Never would Bai Ruoqi think that the always yes-man and cowardly third sister would dare to utter such words today. Not only did she dare to provoke her, she also dragged in her own mother to scold. She was overturning the heavens. Red-faced she retorted, Good, good. It looks like you truly are shameless. Not getting beaten for one day, you would forgot who and what you are. Today I will help you recall it. I will let you know that trash is trash, you will never be able to turn over a new leaf. As she shouted this, Bai Ruoqi advanced in large strides and threw out a slap towards Huang Yuli's face. Face paling instantly, Kai Wei cried out, Third young miss. The second young miss was at the 7th level of the profound Qi realm. Within that slap were clear traces of profound Qi that would definitely cause the receiver to spit out mouthfuls of blood. It was only the other day that third young miss had been carried home. Her health had yet to fully recover, how could she possibly suffer that slap? She was fully devoted to protecting her master and really wanted to block that slap for her third young Mississippi. But that was a slap from a 7th level profound Qi practitioner, most definitely was not her opponent. Before she could even react, Bai Ruoqi's delicate jade hand had already arrived and was about to land on Huang Yuli's face. In dismay, Kai Wei shut her eyes as she couldn't bear to watch what would happen afterwards. She only heard Huang Yuli cry out an "aw" sound. Save me. Please don't. Don't come over. Following it, a "paw" sound crisply rang. Then suddenly a thumped sound, like a weight had been dropped onto the ground. Peeking her eyes open, Kai Wei saw a slender figure heavily land on the ground. Pooh! A mouthful of bloody mist sprayed out into the immediate area in the back courtyard. Third young miss. Extremely panicked, she jumped up. Uncontrollably, her tears rained down. That sound was very loud, and her fall wasn't light. It was unknown whether or not her third young miss was alive or not. Her young miss is really living a harsh life. She was clearly born of a high social family, golden branches and jade leaves. Yet how did her father and mother die, whilst also being bullied from young? How did this happen? Kneeling on the ground, Kai Wei looked on intently, before her eyes turned blank. Her eyes didn't hallucinate, right? That female who had fallen to ground and was struggling up, why did it look like second young miss? Rubbing her eyes, Kai Wei then looked again. Only hearing Huang Yuli speak up from behind her, "Aw, second sister, what happened to you? Are you alright? Why did you suddenly fly up? What mighty martial technique was that?" Dazed, Kai Wei turned her head around, to see her third young miss clutching herself with misty eyes. With a confused expression on her face, her white robes started to flutter in the wind, making her seem like a delicate white lotus. You can also listen on. Bai Ruoyan attempted to stand up straight. Although she wanted to stand up, she found that she was unable to move even a single finger. As she glared at the female in front of her, her eyes seemed to lack just that little bit more before it would start to shoot out fire. Bai Ruoli. What witchcraft did you use? Just why can't I move? Second sister, just how are you speaking? How come this little sister of yours cannot understand what you are saying? On her face, Huang Yuli displayed her incomprehension. You cannot move. How is this related to me in any way? Just then, wasn't it you who wanted to strike me? I was far too scared, so I was wholly unaware at what had happened. I only thought of hiding, clamping her teeth. By Ruoqi sent Huang Yuli a seething and poisonous glare. She truly felt that her third sister was playing tricks, but it was just as she said. It was her who had struck out first, while Huang Yuli was too preoccupied in hiding, losing her head in fear. In the end, she held her head with both hands and squatted down. While Bai Kuo-chi had ruthlessly kicked out. Internally she was thinking that even if this kick didn't kill this little slut, it should at least make her vomit blood. As a result, her kick really made the receiver go flying. Furthermore, they spit out blood as well, but the one who spat blood was her. How could that be? Wasn't that too cursed? At that moment, Huang Yuli cried out like she had suddenly remembered something. Ah. Second sister, when you went flying earlier, your cry was very loud. Did you hurt or break any part of your body? No wonder you're not moving. Hurry and let me see. Immediately after speaking, she knelt down and started feeling Bai Ruoqi's back. Suddenly, Bai Ruoqi felt pain coursing throughout her entire body, as if every single bone her body had shattered. She was in so much pain that she let out blood-curdling screams of agony. Ah! So painful. Ah, ah. Because her cries were far too mournful, everyone felt cold sweat form on their bodies. Due to their exchange being far too fast, the old top knot made by Ruoqi Bot could not react. She would never think that a young miss of the Bai family would lose to that good-for-nothing, so she could not respond fast enough. It was only now that she regained herself. You, what did you do to second young miss? Aren't your guts too big? What trickery did you play? Hurry and cure second young miss, or there you will regret it. That's right, not even thinking about what your status is. Just a piece of trash, yet dare to offend our young miss. Just wait for our young miss to teach you a lesson. Huang Yuli chuckled out loud, are you guys fools? You clearly know that if I cure her, she will teach me a lesson, then why should I cure her? Shrieking in pain, Bai Ruoqi spoke up, hurry. Hurry up and capture that little slut. Fiercely beat her up. Those servants were just waiting for those words as they leapt into action. But these servants were all normal citizens who did not cultivate, at most they would use a little bit more effort. In front of Huang Yuli, they could not survive a single strike from her. Bang! 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 It was merely a span of a few breaths. These maids were all knocked out, K.O., and fell to the floor. Startled, Bai Ruoqi's eyes nearly fell out of their sockets. As things escalated to this degree, she saw that her third younger sister was completely different from before. But it was clear that her body didn't possess or emit any profound qi, so how could she beat down that many servants? Furthermore, she had used some unknown technique to seal up her points. She could not move at all. Bai Ruoqi attempted all types of methods, like striking at her meridians directly, yet none of these methods worked. Huang Yuli sashayed to her. Blinking her eyes, she meekly said, Second sister, why are you lying on the ground not getting up? What happened? You can also listen on. She was clearly the one who had given the beating, yet she was displaying such an innocent face. It was as if she was the one being bullied. There was nothing more infuriating than this. Bai Ruoqi could feel another mouthful of blood rising up in her throat, nearly spilling out. Using all her willpower, she forcefully swallowed it back down. By then her face was both green and purple from anger. Oh my. Looks like second sister cannot hold on for long. Kai Wei, hurry up and support her. Ah. Yes. Understood third young Mississippi. Standing to the side, Kai Wei was watching everything blankly, unable to react anymore. After a good while, did she finally rearrange her thoughts and help to support Bai Ruoqi. But who knew, the moment her hands had just landed on Bai Ruoqi's body, did she screech out once again. Ah! So painful. Stop, you lowly servant. Who allowed your dirty hands to touch me? Panic-stricken, Kai Wei pulled her hands back to look at her own family's young Mississippi slowly and steadily. Wang Yuli said, "Second sister, your current condition really doesn't look good. I hear that being plagued with demonic energy could also be contagious. Yesterday it was fourth younger sister who suffered it, so it couldn't be her who you received it from. Kai Wei, hurry and help me treat it." Ah. Muddled, Kai Wei asked, "Demonic energy. How to treat it? This servant does not know how." Huang Yuli responded, "That is easy. Use all your strength to slap her face." What? Simultaneously, Kai Wei and Bai Ruoqi exclaimed. Biting her teeth, Bai Ruoqi bellowed out in rage, "Little slut, you dare. You dare make you serving girl slap me." Huang Yuli chuckled, "Second sister, what are you saying? This younger sister is doing all this for your own good. Falling sick with demonic energy is a very severe illness. What if your sickness worsens and makes you run around naked like fourth sister did? Since it is like that, you can't hold off treatment because you are afraid of losing face. If you are sick, you must hurry and cure it." As she was speaking, she turned towards Kai Wei. "What are you waiting for? Do you really want to cause second sister to die? Delaying the treatment of the manners, young miss, you cannot afford the consequences, right? Hurry up and slap her. And use all your strength. Only then will you be able to expel that demonic spirit from within her body." Kai Wei still did not dare to execute her commands. What type of person second young miss, she and Bai Ruoli were much too clear. From when they were young to now, she had suffered many beatings from her. When she was recalling how just ruthless her ordinary beatings were, Kai Wei felt her legs soften. Huang Yuli didn't rush her either, but patiently watched and waited for her. After hesitating for quite some time, did Kai Wei gingerly raise her hand. Paw! Ah! A slap fell onto Bai Ruoqi's face. Because Kai Wei was very nervous, that slap wasn't really heavy. Yet Bai Ruoqi was screaming out like a pig being slaughtered. Kai Wei looked down at the person she was deathly fearful of. Yet under her hands, she was losing her head over the pain, no longer possessing any of the arrogance or despotism the manners #1 genius formerly possessed. From within, she felt refreshed and satisfied. Momentarily, she forgot her previous fears. Raising her hand again, she began a round of slaps. Paw! 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 Ah! You dare! How dare you! You cheap slave, who gave you this courage? Bai Ruoli, you must and will die. Bai Ruoqi was screeching and shrieking at the top of her lungs. That old serving woman who was knocked to the ground and watching on stupefied. The reason being Bai Ruoqi's personal strength. She was a 7th level profound chi practitioner, while Kai Wei was merely a non-cultivating commoner. Even if she were to muster all her strength and energy, no matter what she did, it should not even tickle Bai Ruoqi. So just why was she screaming out so wretchedly? Could it be there really was demonic energy within her? You can also listen on. What they did not know was the reason why Bai Ruoqi was suffering this wretchedly was because of something Huang Yulai did. Earlier when she had helped her, she used a technique to manipulate her acupuncture points. Not only would this immobilize her and prevent from using her profound qi to protect her, it also multiplied the pain she experienced by 10,000 times. As a result, the pain Bai Ruoqi felt from even a simple touch was equivalent to the pain she would feel if someone was slicing her flesh. What's more, Kai Wei was vigorously slapping at her face. Very quickly, Bai Ruoqi was slapped swollen and it was impossible to see any facial expressions. The only method in which you could sense any emotion from her were through her originally peerless pair of beautiful eyes, in which they contained pure despise. She had never felt this wrong before. Never had she experienced humiliation on such a level. In all these years, it was always her who ordered people to press Bai Ruoqi to the ground, executing those slaps from above, whipping her and using hundreds of different methods to torture her. She always felt that Bai Ruoqi deserved it. Who told her to be a piece of trash yet possessed the title of the sole daughter of Wu Wei Manor's true master. While she was a super genius, yet had to be below her. Moreover, it was said when Bai Lu Feng had died, he had left many cultivation resources for Bai Ruoqi. But after all these years of interrogation, Bai Ruoqi had not handed them over. Bai Ruoqi, this trash, what use she have by holding on to these cultivation resources? Only her, a talented person, could use those resources. By not taking the initiative to hand these resources over was too untactful, just asking for a beating. More than 10 years, she had always been like this. Who knew that on this day, everything changed? Bai Ruoqi, one of South Yu's geniuses who you could count on your fingers, was trampled underfoot by her useless third younger sister and firmly slapped on the face. If you spoke nicely, then Huang Yuli was disinclined to do it herself and asked a serving girl called Kai Wei to humiliate her. While the old woman maid that Bai Ruoqi had brought over was still blankly lying on the ground. She didn't even know to protect her mistress. Was her brain flooded with water? Did she really believe that little slut's words, that she really was plagued with some demonic energy? It was very simple to see that little slut used some underhanded methods. Why did no one believe her? Her facing was burning with heat and pain, the blood within her stomach churning. Until she finally couldn't resist any more and spat out the blood. Eyes rolling back, she fainted on the floor. Because Kai Wei couldn't dodge in time, her clothes were covered with blood. Only then did she wake from her trance, indulging in the bliss of oppressing others, and halted her hands. Walking over, Huang Yuli looked and nodded, and this seems about enough. Finally, at the moment, that old maid regained her sense of self. Bai Ruoqi's wet nurse, Mama Han, struggled to pick herself up from the ground. Throwing herself to Bai Ruoqi's side, she began to wail out loudly, "Second young miss. Second young miss, what is wrong with you? Hurry and wake up. Third young miss, you are too cruel. You actually made second young miss faint from those strikes. Also Kai Wei, you cheap girl, cannot be forgiven either. Just you wait. Once the Lord knows, he won't forgive you. Wait for the day you will be sold to the brothel." Widening her eyes, Huan Yuli's eyes displayed a hurtful expression. "Mama Han, how can you speak about me like this? Look at me, this good for nothing. How could I possibly make second young miss faint from mere beatings?" The reason why she fainted was because she had been plagued by demonic energy earlier. It wasn't easy to cure her, so she merely overdrafted her energy in the process. As she spoke, she walked over and pulled on Kai Wei's hands, pointing to her body. "Do you see the blood on Kai Wei's clothes? With the red blood, there are traces of black. That is the demonic substance within her body being expelled out. My family's maid disregarded her own safety to exorcise second sister of her impurities. Her hands have become red from the strikes, yet you still sully her like so. Was your consciences eaten by dogs? You can also listen on. Under the constant assail of Mama Han's loud wailing, Bai Ruoqi gradually began to sober up. But hearing Huang Yuli's word twisting, turning white into black and black into white made her faint once again. How could someone be two-faced to such a degree? According to Huang Yuli's reason, then she should thank her for slapping her face all swollen, black and blue. Stifled, Mama Han found her ability to speak limited, as she somewhat knew in her heart that Bai Ruoqi didn't really have any demonic energy within her. But Huang Yuli spoke with such confidence and certainty that she found it hard to refute her. This entire affair today was too cursed. Even now she could not truly make any proper sense of anything. How did second young miss suddenly fall to the ground? It couldn't be that she was defeated by the third young miss. Additionally, the third young miss courage was usually as big as a mosquito. How did she cause second young miss to beaten until she vomited blood out? She wasn't dreaming, was she? Viewing her current circumstances, Mama Han knew that her and the others here would not be let off easily by the third young Mississippi. With Bai Ruoqi unable to do anything, they were in dire straits. Hurriedly, she made a split-second decision. Taking the chance while she was still wailing away, the old top-knot maid kicked towards a nearby maid. "Why are still lying on the floor for? Hurry up and get up. Second young miss is this sick, we must quickly send her back." These maids were long scared and lost all courage. Hastily they tripped and stumbled up and picked up Bai Ruoqi, escaping to the door. They all thought that the female demon behind Tem was too scary. These maids had forgotten long their status and only thought of escaping as fast as possible. In a blink of an eye, no trace of them could be seen. Huang Yuli was also slightly dumbstruck. What was the matter? Why did they run away so quickly? It's not like a ghost was behind them. The small phoenix had always been perched on her shoulder, chirped twice, flapping its wings. Of course there is no ghost, but there is a female demon who is even scarier than a ghost. Full of grief, Huang Yuli sighed out, "Why are people these days like this?" Kai Wei had arduously and painstakingly helped to cure them, yet they got up and ran away without even paying. Furthermore, the courtyard had become this messy with bits of blood spattered here and there. Are they not going to pay some repair fees? This moral character, you practically cannot bear to witness anymore. Tripping over his little feet, the small phoenix narrowly avoided falling off her shoulder and onto the ground. This female demon was just too demanding money no matter what. Frightening. Too frightening. Thankfully those people had escaped. Young miss," Kai Wei's weak voice sounded from behind her. Smiling, Huang Yuli turned around. "What is the matter? How's the feeling of striking back? Did you grow some courage? Towards these types of evil people, you must fiercely strike back." Kai Wei was on the verge of crying. "Young miss, what should we do?" This servant actually hit second young miss. It was second young miss. She is one of the 10 great geniuses in South Yu. If she were to regain herself, what type of payback would she give? Not to mention the manor master and second madam. They also wouldn't let you go, even if this servant were to be beaten to death. It is a lowly life that I possess. But you are a golden-branched and jade-leaved, crying is not allowed. Hearing the command, Kai Wei halted her tears. She has already been hit, what use will it be to cry? Walking to her, Huang Yuli lifted her head up. "Kai Wei, do you perhaps like to be bullied by others? Don't you want to firmly teach those who bullied you a good lesson?" This servant naturally wants to, but there are no buts. Only by following this young miss, will no one ever bully you again. You only need to remember the person standing behind you is me. Whoever dares to beat you, 10-fold, 100-fold they will receive in compensation. You can also listen on. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.